hopefully hide the errors on our finished. That's my goal. I keep the skeletons buried.
Again, 7th floor.
Okay, anything related to that or different?
Still tying on to that, so getting the auditors confidence in our financial statements. And that's by having accurate data and having policies and procedures which I comply with.
Okay.
So I've got a couple of things that link to this. First of all, as OFOG, we have a responsibility to validate that the transactions are supported by appropriate documents. So, I mean, that's just kind of our job. But actually, related to that more importantly, is to try and find the problems before the donors or the external auditors find them.
Good.
You're going to spend some time with Zambia in the spring.
Do internal audits. It's kind of nice. And then linked to that, providing OFOG reports to the external auditors when they ask for them. Unfortunately, that is our job. And also linked to all of this is identifying frauds, because like we have to do all the work and find all the problems, but we also have an obligation to report this to them. So provide the fraud information, but then
What's
also
EA?
an answer, external audit, like a board of writing.
I have something, I don't know if it fit under support or audit, but there's a physical inventory process in the system, in Lawson's system, or here at audit, and we support them with how to record it in the system. Now, what they do outside, that's a different matter, but, so, and it's interesting enough, because they get confused, it takes up a lot of our time at year.
Yeah.
Will you be so proud of me? I already emailed that QRG to all the live platforms.
I saw Tricia was showing me that.
How did Tricia get her hands on it? People are forwarding my emails.
I sent her the draft communication.
Oh.
Nice.
The culprit has been.
Anything else that we
We
didn't
do all the
cover? Any cards remaining?
Nope.
It is, I mean, just so illuminating that all
It
the
is.
cards are right there.
Like-
Like the TA.
This is very enlightening for me.
Yeah.
I mean, it brings, I think I need to think of myself as more of a teacher rather than somebody who produces financial statements.
I agree.
What I find interesting is we're doing all of this, but we were really struggling to come up with what we're doing to monitor and analyze, which I think comes back to the reactive versus the proactive. Like we just don't, you guys don't have time to do it, but also from an OFOG perspective, I don't have time to be more focused on specific areas because we're just all busy firefighting.
Any surprises in terms of overlaps or areas that you didn't realize people were working on the same?
For me, it's the coordination. I mean, I know that I'm supposed to coordinate, but I've never formalized the coordination effort outside of this meeting. And the other thing for me was also reporting, or when we were talking about, well, what is analysis? And we were saying, well, it's process, not output. And it got me thinking, I bet you there's so much process that I do that I should be sharing. Because I just see it as something that gets me to my output. But just listening to you guys, I'm like, oh, well, that could have fed really nicely into Chris's report, or Mauricio probably would really like to know that, what I was doing in my research. That was an important overlap / gap, if you will.
I think this shows how valuable the biweekly meetings will be that you've talked about setting up, but we haven't gotten set going yet. Biweekly, or if people don't have time, at least once a month. I mean, I think this is a real important group if we need to know what's going on in each other's areas.
Yeah.
I was surprised to know that Jasmine's now analyzing system accounts, which is exciting. But it's also, and did I get that right? You're analyzing system accounts?
That's a potential overlap between us. Charity seems to think that she's supposed to analyze system accounts, that we're going to sit down and talk about it.
Which is interesting because we're doing an activity right now, and it's preparation for year end. But we're looking at all of the loss and life countries and looking at their system accounts and giving them some type of analysis like, hey, these 3 areas are fires.
Well, you're doing that? Because I'm doing that.
See? And this is a
Well,
website.
it's one of the things I'm supposed to be doing
But Chris,
eventually
still
as
processes
well.
inventory. what Lawson is doing is looking at
All
the
systems
system
accounts for supply chain and finance.
I feel
Well,
like that could be
I'm looking at all the
said.
system accounts for supply chain and inventory. All the 145s, 146s.
But
all the-
we're doing any matching, R&I.
Yeah, I look at those, all the 5.3 series, yeah.
So it was a task where the past 2 years, Kenya and South Africa and Zimbabwe, when they did their audits the following year, there was such cleanup and there was such an uproar of, we don't know what these accounts are, no one taught us these accounts. And so this year, since we have so many countries and we know next year, depending on how things go, we don't know what circumstances are, we were trying to be proactive and saying, okay, these are the system accounts, this is what they do. But by the way, this is where you stand as of October 31st, and we think these are really problem areas that we can help you analyze.
We're overlapping there, we should probably start copying each other on our emails.
Okay.
And this is also something that I wanted to talk about in that accounting supplement guide that we'll talk about this afternoon that I want to write. Precisely to explain, when does Lawson hit that account? When does it add to that account? When does it subtract to that account? What is the process, the procedure, the posting program that affects that? Because people don't know.
But I mean, I always thought this was a kind of a one-time thing that we would do and that it would get handed off to you. But now I'm a little bit confused because I wasn't sure GIS was handling it.
Well, so this is maybe a little bit less analyzing and more global, like pulling it back based on maybe the information that's coming out from you guys. What are the common themes? What areas do Sarah and I need to go back and maybe work on capacity building for? Or where are the deficiencies in the larger picture on more of a global trends analysis?
Okay, so
Is
not
it a
looking
Lawson
at what
problem
made
or
up this
is it-
balance.
Yeah.
No. Well, I mean, I guess it's important as well because if all the countries Lost in Life countries are struggling with that particular issue,
The way-
then, or whatever. Go ahead.
We need to talk about it, none of this has been talked about,
Yeah.
much less decided, but in my mind, I was starting to separate it sort of between GL module and IC module. I was thinking that I would be responsible for GL and you would be responsible for IC. So I would look at the balance, if there's a funny balance that is caused by a bad procedure, hand that off to Jasmine. Something along those lines, I don't know exactly.
And then
what.
the funny part is that we were looking at it, and maybe, I guess similarly, but maybe even a step higher, was that we're looking at all these trends and saying, who should be dealing with this? Kind of based on your comment about being a teacher, not just an accountant or not just sitting at my desk as well, because that'll help us to clarify when the field writes in a